friends, welcome back to the channel. So here we go with another book haul, and so I've actually cut back quite significantly on my book buying, and I've been concentrating on getting a lot of used books and stuff like that because obviously they're much cheaper. But every time I put together all of the books that I had hauled like over the past month, it seems like a whole heck of a lot, but honestly I got all of these books at a really great price. And the other thing that I'm going to start doing right now is I'm going to start including the ebooks that I'm downloading. And I don't know why I've never included those in my book hauls because it's still accumulating books. And so I'm going to go through my ebooks, the physical books first and then my ebooks, because like I said, it's still buying books. And going forward, most of my books, especially like new releases and stuff like that, I am going to be purchasing a lot more ebooks because I want my shelf spaces to be full of the vintage books that I'm looking for. And so I'm going to be downloading a lot more ebooks, and I'm really honestly a minimalist. Like, besides buying a lot of books, I don't really buy a whole lot of other things. Like, our house is very empty. It's actually very echoey because we don't have very much stuff. So jumping right into the haul, the first book that I got was Needful Things by Stephen King. So this is a classic, of course. I've never read it before, but I'm excited to have this now. So this is from 1995, I believe this copy is, and I got it for a fantastic price at the used bookstore that I always go to here. And it's in great condition. It's not perfect, but for $8 I grabbed it. And of course, this is the classic story of a mysterious shop that opens up in a small town, and its owner is just as mysterious. But the shop has something for everybody, but at a large price. So I kind of know a little bit more about this story, but just in case there's anybody watching that, you know, has never read this and doesn't know anything about it, I don't want to give anything else away, but excited to have this for my growing Stephen King hardcover collection. And like I said, for $8, it's in fantastic condition. So next up, and this one is really interesting to me, it's Sister of Darkness, The Chronicles of a Modern-Day Exorcist by R.H. Stavis. And unfortunately has a big old price sticker right on the front, but this is also a hardback. It was $10.50, which is more than I would like to pay for a used book in most cases, especially if it's not like a rare vintage one. But I've never seen this book before, and I was really intrigued by it, and I didn't just kind of want to not get it and then not be able to find it again. So the cover is really cool. So it's just the smoke on a black background there, but it looks really awesome. So the author, R.H. Stavis, I believe her name is Rachel. Her name is Rachel, and she is a lay demonologist. So she doesn't advertise her services, and she works pro bono, which I think is amazing. And she's just out to help people. She really wants to help people to rid themselves of demonic energies or entities that they have in their life. And so this chronicles her travels in, you know, doing exorcisms and stuff like that. And I think this is going to be a really interesting read, especially because it doesn't come from a religious background, which I have absolutely no problem with. I just worry a little bit that it could be kind of proselytizing a bit and using fear tactics to tell people, you know, these things are in your life and you have to pray and all of that kind of stuff. So I think this is going to be a little bit of a unique take on exorcisms. So just on the bottom it says here, in Sister of Darkness, Rachel Stavis takes us on a journey into an unseen world, describes the diverse range of entities that surround us, the spirit guides and ancient ancestors that come to her aid to reveal the root causes of your pain, and what you can do to protect yourself from creating a hospitable environment. A unique look at demonology removed from religious dogma, Sister of Darkness is the true story of Rachel's journey to becoming an exorcist, chronicling some of her most extreme and interesting cases, the hows and the whys of what she does, and the stories of danger and triumph. Stavis creates a world that is at times frightening, eye-opening, and utterly enthralling. So that sounds really, really good, and I really like demonology and demonic horror. So like I said, I think this is going to be a really interesting tape because she is a lay demonologist, so hoping to get to this one fairly quickly actually during spooky season. I think this is going to fit in really, really well with Halloween. And then next up, I got a John Saul. So this one is not in good condition at all. It's creased up and it's kind of ripped, but for $4, I grabbed it. And this is kind of like a haunted house sort of story. So this is When the Wind Blows. And it says on the back, the children were waiting for centuries, waiting for someone to hear their cries. Now, 9-year-old Christy Lyons has come to live in the house on the hill, the house where no children have lived for 50 years. Now little Christy will sleep in the old-fashioned nursery on the 3rd floor. Now Christy's terror will begin. So right up my alley with, you know, haunted house story. And again, I haven't read any John Saul. I have hauled quite a few of his books recently, and they sound really, really good. So hoping to get to this one fairly soon, or maybe one of the other ones that I've hauled. And then I was really happy to get a couple of books to put in my Christopher Pike collection. So we have Chain Letter and Chain Letter 2. So the original one, Chain Letter, was published in 1986. And the second one, which is actually a first printing, is from April of 1992. So in the first one, we follow a girl named Allison, and she gets a chain letter that's signed The Caretaker. And this person was witness or knows about a heinous criminal act that Allison and 6 of her friends had committed, and they, you know, promised that they weren't going to tell anybody and they were just going to keep it buried. But of course somebody finds out, and now this chain letter is going around to everyone who is involved in this heinous activity, and they're basically being threatened. So the caretaker is asking them to commit more and more things that are getting more and more dangerous. And it says, one by one, the chain letter was coming to each of them, demanding dangerous, impossible deeds, threatening violence if the demands were not met. No one out of the 7 would believe that this nightmare was really happening to them until the accidents started happening, and then the dying. So I've never read this one before. I haven't been able to get my hands on it in all the times I've been looking for this one. It's quite an early one, so excited for that. And for Chain Letter 2, I didn't want to go over any of the synopsis because sometimes I find when I read, you know, the synopsis of sequels, it kind of gives a little bit too much away of the first one. So I'm just going to leave it there, but really, really happy to have both of these for my collection. And then I was so excited to see this. It's one of the Are You Afraid of the Dark novelizations. And these are quite rare to find. This is the only one that I've actually seen anywhere, and I got it on Spooky Syllables Etsy shop, and I snapped it up right away as soon as I saw it because I was like, this is not going to last for very long and I'm never going to see it again. So this is The Tale of the Restless House by John Peel. And here we follow a boy named Nathan, and he wants to basically play a prank on another boy named Adam, and Nathan's crush decides that she is going to help out and she is going to be the bait. So there is an old kind of haunted house in the town, and it sounds like maybe they want to trap him in there and play a joke and stuff like that. But then things go awry and Nathan ends up stuck in the house, and when his friends get the door open, all they find is his backpack full of Halloween tricks. So, and then they hear him scream and they don't know what has happened. He's completely vanished. So it says, it's up to Adam to discover the secret of Hawkins' house, where the terrifying past lurks behind each door, where their only way out is death. So I'm a huge Are You Afraid of the Dark fan, and I'm so happy to have finally found at least one of the novelizations. My library actually has a couple of them as well, so I think I'm gonna get those out for spooky season. And I mean, they're really short, they're kids books, right? So they're about 100 pages or so. And so they're going to be really great little quick reads, and it's going to be really nostalgic to read these. Does anybody else remember the Fright Night that they used to have on YTV with the Are You Afraid of the Dark, where they would play episodes from the new season? I watched it every single year. I would actually finish up my trick-or-treating early and go home so I could watch YTV's Fright Night and see all of the Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes, and they used to have other shows that were kind of looped into it. If you're Canadian, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, but yeah, so that's going to be super nostalgic. And then last up for the physical books, I got a whole stack of ghost story books, and a lot of these are out of print now, or they're super expensive. It's like $26 or $28 for just like a paperback. So I was so happy that I found someone in my community that was selling these, and I got them for a super good price. So the first one is The Best Ghost Stories Ever. So this is just a little book. Then we have Ghost Stories of Saskatchewan, Ghost Stories of Alberta, Ghost Stories of California, Ghost Stories of Christmas. So I was excited to get this one because this is the first time I've actually ever seen it. So definitely gonna read this one during the holidays. Then we have Ghost Stories of Manitoba, Ghost Stories of the Rocky Mountains, and another, so this is more Ghost Stories of Saskatchewan. So all of these, like I said, they're super expensive to get them on Amazon, and a lot of them are actually gone out of print. So I've got pretty much all of Western Canada here. I just need to find one from BC, and then we're all set. So besides that, I also got one of the Haunted Canada books, and on another episode I had, I think it was 4. It was Haunted Canada 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this one goes right in there. It's called Canadian Hauntings, a Haunted Canada book. So excited to have all of those, you know, ghost stories, and we're coming up to Halloween. It's going to be fantastic. So then as for ebooks that I got recently, the first one is called The Livingston Girls. And this is the first in a series, or a duology, by Brianna Morgan. And I read The Trick-or-Treater earlier this year that was also by this author, and I really enjoyed it. So I was so excited to see this book because it is a boarding school book. So this follows 16-year-old Rose, and Rose has had an indiscretion at home. So her parents ship her off to a boarding school for girls. So right there I was hooked in because I love boarding school books. But Rose thinks that this is going to be a stuffy old school, but she actually realizes after speaking with the headmistress that the boarding school houses a secret coven of witches. So that's another box that's ticked for me. And of course, the headmistress sees abilities within Rose. So Rose gets picked to be part of this coven, and then at the same time, she is actually realizing that she has feelings for her female roommate. And on top of all of that, the headmaster of the local boys' school is trying to basically get rid of all of the witches and see them burn. So this sounds very similar to The Ravens that I read earlier this year, and that is one of my favorite books of the whole year. And part 2 is actually coming out in January. So really excited about this book. I mean, like I said, you have a boarding school, secret coven of witches, you have some possible sapphic romance in there, which is amazing. And then of course there's a sinister threat to all of the girls in the school. So I really enjoy Brianna Morgan's writing. Like I said, The Trick-or-Treater, which is a collection of short stories I read earlier this year, and I really enjoyed it. So hoping to pick this one up during spooky season as well, because can't beat books about witches. So the next ebook that I picked up was Pray Lied Eve by my friend Lydia Peaver. And I've realized recently that I have a lot of booktube friends that are also authors, and I've never read any of their work. So I want to rectify that. And I thought that starting with Lydia's collection of short stories would be a great place to start. And she is fantastic and spooky and gothic. So really excited to pick up this one. Like I said, it is a collection of short stories. And it says here, fans of quiet and gothic horror with a splash of viscera that flirts with extreme gore, ghosts, and sorrow will enjoy this collection. Sorry if my dog's barking. So that sounds fantastic. Like I said, really excited to read more of Lydia's work. I did read one of her short stories in Local Haunts last year, and gotta support my friends here on BookTube. So of course, I'll report back and do a full review of this one once I get it finished. So the next ebook that I downloaded was The House on Abigail Lane by Keelyn Patrick Burke. And this is another one that I've had on my wish list for quite some time, and I just haven't gotten around to it. And I've heard super good things about this book. It's another sort of, I don't know if you would call it a haunted house book, but it's like a cursed house. So in its 60-year, I believe it's a 60-year history, a lot of strange things have happened in this house. So you have everything here from, you know, mysterious sounds and animals coming into the yard of the house as if they're summoned. There's neighbors waking up in the front yard, a man who has disappeared in front of police officers' eyes, and just on and on and on. So it seems like this is a cursed property, and somebody has to get to the bottom of what's going on with this house. So like I said, I've heard a lot about this book. I haven't read any of Keelyn Patrick Burke. I think I have another one that I recently hauled on my shelf as well, but really excited to get into this one because we all know my love of haunted or cursed locations. So next I downloaded two books by Joshua Marcella. So I downloaded Scratches and Severed. So Scratches is the first one, and then Severed is actually a prequel. And so in Scratches, it follows a mother and a son who have a really strained relationship, and they end up inheriting a house after a family member died a very violent death. And the son moves into the basement and discovers some really spooky things happening down there. So it says here, after he uncovers a dark secret concealed within the house, they quickly learn that some truths are better left a mystery. Can they overcome their differences in order to survive, or will the darkness overcome them both? So you have a spooky house and some strained family dynamics, which only makes spooky houses even worse with all of the negative energy. So really excited for those, and I've heard from just about everywhere that I've seen that these books are fantastic. So I don't want to read the synopsis of Severed because, again, I try not to read into too much about either a prequel or a sequel because I don't want anything to be given away. And the next ebook that I downloaded was Scream Queen by Stephanie Sparks. And I also read another book by her called Kill the Babysitter earlier this year. Really enjoyed that one too, so I wanted to read some more from her. And when I read the synopsis of this book, I thought it was just perfect to fit in with this time of year. And so this one is about a very small town called Morganville, and they are having their very first harvest festival in 17 years. And a teenager named Becca is a shoo-in for being the Harvest Queen. So Becca finds out that her mother was also Harvest Queen before her, but she died soon after Rebecca was born. And as she starts looking further and further into the festival's history, she uncovers a curse, or whatever you want to call it, that anyone who is chosen to be the Harvest Queen dies soon afterward. And once you get the title, there's no getting away from it. So she starts to dig further and further into this mystery, and of course she is the one that's next at the stake because she is a shoo-in for all of this. So again, here I thought this sounded absolutely fantastic for this time of year. You know, you have a harvest festival and a queen that's cursed, and you know, just the whole thing. So I have to say, like I said, I really enjoyed Kill the Babysitter. It's probably one of my top reads of this year so far. So I'm really excited to read this one from Stephanie Sparks as well. Next, I downloaded Chasing the Boogeyman by Richard Chismar, and this one is a recent release. I think it just came out last week, and this was one of my most anticipated books of 2021. So really excited to read this one. So here it's taking place in 1988, and several of the girls that are in this small town go missing and they're brutally murdered. So of course the police and the FBI and everybody think that there's a serial killer on the loose, but the townsfolk have it in their head that it's something that is actually not human that is killing all of these girls. So then we got a little bit of folklore going on in here, and then we meet a recent college graduate who is Richard Chismar in the book as well, and he moves back to this little town. He used to live there, he moved away, and now he's coming back, and he kind of gets sucked into this whole mystery of, you know, these girls who are brutally murdered, and, you know, is it a serial killer or is it something supernatural? And so this just has all of the feels. So like I said, it's been one of my most anticipated of the year, and I know this is on a lot of other booktubers' shelves as well. So I will do a full review of this one and get back to you guys. So the last ebook that I downloaded is The Smashed Man of Dread End by J.W. Ocker, and this is another new release. It was just released earlier this week, I believe, and this is another author that I read a book from them earlier this year. So I read 12 Nights at Rotterhouse and really enjoyed it. So this is a middle grade book. So I read an adult book from this author, and I really wanted to see what he was going to do with middle grade. So this follows a young girl named, I believe, Noah. Her name is spelled N-O-E. And a year previous, she had a really embarrassing sleepwalking incident at a sleepover. And now her parents are moving out of town, so she really feels like she's having another chance and she can make some new friends and just leave the whole incident behind her. But she doesn't expect when she moves into her new house that the other kids that are living on her street are telling her to stay out of her basement. There's something in the basement, and of course she doesn't listen, and now she's gone down into the basement and things have gone completely wrong. So this sounds like a classic monster in the basement kind of book, but super excited to read it. Like I said, I really enjoyed J.W. Ocker's writing in the last book that I read, and really eager to see what he does with middle grade. I just love middle grade. I think it's really imaginative, and I'm just really hoping that this book is going to be a fun adventure. So there you guys go. That is my August book haul. It ended up turning out to be quite a few books. I was thinking before I filmed this video that I didn't have very many, but turned out to be quite a list anyway. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to give me a thumbs up and leave me a question or a comment down below, because you know I love chatting with you guys. But until next time, stay spooky, everybody. Bye.